October 24, 1971. The final minute of the game. Detroit Lions vs. Chicago Bears. A wide receiver jogs back to the huddle, calm, focused, ready for one last play. But in the next few seconds, something happened that no one in the NFL had ever seen before. He took a few steps, and then, he never got back up. This is the story of Chuck Hughes, the only NFL player who died during a game. A moment that turned a rivalry into a tragedy, and a football field into a memory that still haunts history. Let's go back to that fateful day. To the game that started like any other, and ended like no one expected. Before tragedy struck, it was just another Sunday rivalry in the Midwest.
Michigan, the Lions coming out onto the field to face the Chicago Bears in a game.
The Detroit Lions and the Chicago Bears, two teams who'd been battling each other since the early days of the NFL. Hard hits, cold weather, and pride on the line, that was the NFC Central Division in 1971. The Lions were fighting through a rough season. They'd lost key games, struggled to find rhythm, and needed this win to turn things around. On the other side, the Bears, tough defense, led by legends like Dick Butkus, were ready to crush anyone in their path. And then, there was Chuck Hughes. Not a star, not a headline name, but a man who loved the game more than anything. He came from the University of Texas at El Paso, where he once broke school records for receiving yards. Drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles in 1967, traded to Detroit in 1970, Hughes had the speed, the heart, and the drive to prove himself. His numbers were modest, only 15 catches in his career, but his passion made him stand out. He wasn't just playing for stats. He was playing for a dream, and for the team that believed in him. No one knew that this game, this rivalry, would be the last time Chuck Hughes ever stepped onto the field. 1971 had already been tough for Chuck Hughes. Before the season even began, he collapsed once in the locker room, gasping for air, clutching his chest. Doctors said it was just a pinched nerve, maybe exhaustion. But deep inside, something far more dangerous was growing. He was told to rest. But in pro football, rest means losing your place. So, Hughes pushed through. Every catch, every sprint, a silent fight between his body and his dream. October 24, 1971, Game Day. Detroit Lions vs. Chicago Bears. Over 54,000 fans fill the stands, cheering as the clock moves into the final quarter. The Lions were behind. Their receivers were tired. Then, with just minutes left, Chuck Hughes was called in as a substitute. Quarterback Greg Landry dropped back. Hughes sprinted down the sideline and made a perfect 32-yard catch, his longest of the season. In that moment, it felt like momentum had shifted. The crowd roared, the Lions believed again. But beneath that noise, Chuck's heart was quietly losing its battle. Just 3 plays after his big catch, the Lions lined up again. Quarterback Greg Landry threw a short pass. It slipped through Charlie Sanders' hands. Chuck Hughes turned and jogged back toward the huddle. He took only a few steps, and then, suddenly stopped. His hand grabbed his chest. And right there, on the Bears' 20-yard line, he fell face-first to the ground. Standing nearby was Dick Butkus, the Bears' legendary linebacker. He saw Hughes's body shaking, realized it wasn't just another hit, and frantically waved to the sideline for help. Trainers and doctors rushed in, pumping his chest, fighting for his life right there on the field. The stadium fell silent. 50,000 fans, motionless, watching a man's life slip away before their eyes. When they carried Chuck Hughes off the field, many still thought he'd be okay. The game resumed for the final seconds, eerie, quiet, unreal. But at 5:34 p.m., at Henry Ford Hospital, the announcement came. Chuck Hughes, 28 years old, was gone. The game ended, but football would never be the same again. The news hit like a shockwave through the NFL. Players wept in the locker room. Coaches stood speechless. And across Detroit, fans couldn't believe what they had just witnessed, a man dying while chasing his dream. The next day, the autopsy revealed the truth. Chuck Hughes had advanced arteriosclerosis, his coronary artery was 75% blocked. The official cause of death, coronary thrombosis, a massive heart attack. His wife, Sharon Hughes, was heartbroken and angry. Months before his death, doctors had examined Chuck for chest pains and cleared him to play. After the tragedy, Sharon filed a lawsuit against the hospital, claiming misdiagnosis cost her husband's life. The Detroit Lions and the entire league mourned together. For the first time in NFL history, a player had died because of a medical emergency during a game. Back then, medical support was limited, no defibrillators, no sideline emergency systems. Today, every NFL game has full trauma teams ready within seconds, all because of moments like this. To honor him, the Lions retired his number 85, a quiet tribute to a man whose passion outlived his time. Though later reused with permission, that number will forever carry one story: the day football stood still. Every rivalry writes its own story, but what happened that day between the Lions and the Bears became something much bigger than football. Chuck Hughes wasn't a superstar. He didn't hold records, and his stats were modest, just 15 career receptions. But his story turned into one of the most haunting moments in NFL history. He was young, full of dreams, and fighting for his place on the field. Yet, hidden inside was something no one could see: a heart silently struggling against advanced arteriosclerosis. In a sport built on collisions and impact, Chuck's death came not from a hit, but from within. The irony still chills fans decades later. In what could have been the Lions' comeback drive, Hughes helped move the ball forward, and moments later, he fell, never to rise again. Teammates were broken, fans were stunned, and his family was left with a grief that stretched far beyond the game. It forced the NFL to look in the mirror, to question how it handled player health, long before modern screenings, medical staff, and cardiac protocols were common. Years later, when Damar Hamlin collapsed on national television in 2023, many recalled Chuck Hughes, the only NFL player ever to die during a game. Two moments, decades apart, bound by the same haunting question: how fragile is life, even for the strongest among us? Chuck Hughes' career might have been brief, but his name became immortal, not for records or rings, but for reminding the world that even on the biggest stage, the human heart can write the most unforgettable story of all. The Lions and Bears rivalry gave us countless moments of intensity, but none like October 24, 1971. A day that started with competition and ended with heartbreak. In a game charged with rivalry, the crowd watched history unfold, not in the final score, but in silence that followed Chuck Hughes' collapse. His legacy remains unlike any other. Chuck Hughes is the only player in NFL history to die during a game. Despite earlier health scares and playing mostly on special teams, he never backed down from the field he loved. And before his NFL career, at the University of Texas at El Paso, he once set an NCAA record, 34.9 yards per reception in a single game, a record that still reminds us of the talent he carried. As the camera pans over the empty stadium, a single jersey, number 85, hangs under the lights. The sound of a faint crowd echo fades in, then silence.